Hello everybody, Burko here with this week's pontification. So this week, as I explained in my last little video, is about substance abuse in the nation. And there are many nations, obviously, that have substance abuse problems. In fact, all of them do. And the way different governments deal with it is on a spectrum. So I've picked two countries at each end of the spectrum in terms of effectiveness. One is the United States, the other is Portugal. Now, the reason I picked those two is because they treat the problem differently, or they label it differently. In the United States, substance abuse is a crime. In Portugal, substance abuse is an illness. And so, although up until 2000, in Portugal, it was the same. And they had problems with many deaths, people on the street, needles on the streets. And so they decided, with the new government, to look at it differently. So this is what this video is about, is to look at some of the statistics on how and each different way of dealing with this issue, and it is a serious issue, and how it affects the economy and the population. To give you an idea, in the United States, the cost of this war on drugs, which was started by dear old Tricky Dicky Nixon back in the early 70s, and despite all the money that's thrown at it, and lately every year they throw 500 billion, that's $500 billion, half of Musk's wealth, give you an idea, on the problem. But where do they spend the money? Prisons, police, hospitals. But does it get any better? There's no evidence of that. Now I want to talk slightly about the actual casualties. The casualties used to be around 70,000 per year. And then came COVID. And the death toll went up by 50% to 106,000. It's back down now a little bit, back down to 79,000. But that works out at 2,000 people per million. That's what the death toll is for substance abuse in the United States. Plus you're spending all that money, which of course is a boost to the economy. And if you ask an economist, wow, $500 billion GDP growth. But in actuality, if you compare it to what that kind of growth is, if you looked at in a medical situation, the doctor would call it cancer. So now let's look at Portugal and how Portugal looks at it. Portugal looks at it differently. They think it's an illness. So what they do is they pick people up, take them into rehab, ask them why they're on drugs, and try and straighten their lives out. And the death toll in Portugal at this time is 6 per million. Not 60, not 600, 6. So I ask you, what do you think is dealing with this the best way they possibly can? Now, there's another thing about Portugal that I found in the statistics, and that is that 40% of everyone who was in prison was there because of drugs. 70% of all the crime that was going on was because of drugs. So that's why they said, we can't do it this way anymore. We have to do it different. So they did. And now look at another area when comparing the outcomes of having this substance abuse problem. How many people live in tents in Portugal? I don't know. I couldn't find out. But I'll tell you this. It ain't anywhere near the same as the United States. You go into any of the big cities, and I know some people will blame the cities for dealing with it, and people putting up tents, and sometimes they go in with the police and the cleansing department and they just clean them all out. Of course, it doesn't fix the problem, just moves it to a different spot. Anyway, that's the issue, and I would like to say to you, whichever country you're living in, maybe you should think about what is the best way to deal with it for your country and your family and your friends, and maybe contact the government and say, hey, how about we do this different? Look at what Portugal's doing. Just look at what Portugal's doing. And then get them to explain to you why. So there's an elections coming up in November in the United States. Go to a meeting. Ask the actual candidate, what would you do for this problem? And have you heard about what's going on in Portugal? And if you haven't, why haven't you? Anyway, that's my pontification for this week. Thank you for your patience in getting me back in the saddle. I'll see you next week. Ta-da!